Live from Quito, Ecuador, I'm Sonia Gray, and this is from the South, the Midday News Brief from Tell Us Your English. We start this new edition right now. Israeli occupation military forces in the West Bank have attacked a group of Palestinian protesters with tear gas bombs on the 100th anniversary of the Balfour Declaration. The protesters showed pictures of the former British Prime Minister Arthur Balfour and then burned the Israeli flag in rejection of the 1917 document that first declared support for a Jewish state on Palestinian land.
We have walked in penance to express our sorrow for the 100 years of suffering, dispossession, injustice and conflict which the Balfour Declaration has brought to Palestinian people.
The anniversary of the Balfour Declaration comes as Palestinians are celebrating the new unity agreement between Hamas and Fatah. Our correspondent Noor Harazin has more from Gaza.
Today is a very happy day for the Palestinian people because after 10 years of Palestinian division between the two rival Palestinian parties, Fatah and Hamas, Hamas has finally given all control of the borders of the Gaza Strip to the Palestinian Authority, to the PA. And this is a very happy news for the Palestinian people because it will mean that Egypt will finally regularly open the Rafah border. So this is a very good progress in the Palestinian reconciliation process after Palestinians Fatah and Hamas decided to end these 10 years of awful division here in the Gaza Strip and signed the agreement in Cairo 2 weeks ago.
Our Noor Harazin reporting there from Palestine. A Spanish court has jailed 8 members of the dismissed Catalan government. It also issued an arrest warrant for Carles Puigdemont, the Catalan president who's now in Belgium. Earlier, 9 members of the Catalan cabinet went voluntarily for questioning at 2 courts in Madrid. A judge ordered all but one of them to be detained. He also requested a European arrest warrant for Puigdemont and 4 other members of his regional government who are out of the country.
Do not forget that President Puigdemont and the members of the Catalan government, as well as the members of the Parliament's office, are in a completely unfair situation. They are being accused of rebellion, of sedition, when all this has no basis. He knows this perfectly well, as does anyone who has a minimum knowledge of the law knows it. Rebellion means violence, and here the only ones who use violence is the state.
Now, hundreds of pro-independence supporters have been protesting outside the Catalan government headquarters in Barcelona. They demanded the release of 2 other jailed independence leaders and demanded that Madrid respect the wishes of the Catalan people.
I'm very optimistic, and I believe that faith can move mountains. They won't stop our independence. It might take 1 year to achieve it. The more they do against independence, the more pro-independence people will become, and the more we will vote.
They know that all the polls and the last elections show that the majority of people now want to vote for independence. So what they are trying to do is make people tired so that they won't vote on December 21, when we are going to vote for the Republic.
The Foreign Minister of Venezuela, Jorge Arreaza, has been meeting his counterpart in Trinidad and Tobago, Dennis Moses. The broad agenda of the meeting included commercial agreements, security and border issues, as well as energy cooperation. The 2 foreign ministers, along with other representatives from the region, also discussed ways to strengthen an environment of peace and dialogue after the U.S. imposed sanctions on Venezuela.
We see the disorder of the opposition continuing for the municipal elections in December. And before the end of next year, there will be the election for the presidential election. And it is important that in the way in which the politics has been stabilized, and that has to be consolidated further.
meeting today. What we are really doing here is to prepare for the ministerial. So we discussed some of the documents that would be going to the ministerial in March in Venezuela, in Margarita. And we spoke about a number of different issues with regard to our budget, with regard to how we revitalize our organization, with regard to the priorities of the organization, with regard to how we develop our staff and our people, with regard to how we engage in culture to meet the people on the ground. So these were some of our main discussions in the meeting. We also discussed a declaration of solidarity for all of those countries in our ACS membership that have gone through the disasters in 2017.
The Venezuelan foreign minister said it was Hugo Chavez who first tried to build closer relations with the Caribbean.
Our relationship with Trinidad and Tobago is an historic one, especially since Comandante Hugo Chavez taught the Venezuelan people to turn to the Caribbean and to look towards our brothers and sisters. And specifically with Trinidad and Tobago, we have developed links which are mutually beneficial, which we are able to see right here. We spoke about many things and still needed to cover more topics, for example trade, how we make the most of what is being produced in states such as Sucre and Delta Amacuro, the eastern region of Venezuela, to what is being produced in Trinidad and Tobago, and vice versa.
Our correspondent Regan Devines joins us now live from Caracas. Hello Regan, what has been the outcome of the Venezuelan foreign minister's trip to Trinidad and Tobago?
Hi Sony. Well, we don't have a lot of details as we normally don't get out of trips like this, but they did speak security, as you mentioned, commerce, tourism, energy, and this was considered an acceleration of binational cooperation early in March this year. Then Foreign Minister Desi Rodriguez met with Trinidad's Foreign Minister to discuss an energy deal that would take two phases. It's a deal that would connect a pipeline between Trinidad and Tobago's Hibiscus Field and Venezuela's Dragon Field, and this is supposed to produce or share the spoils of some 400 million cubic feet of gas. And Trinidad and Tobago has a long history of cooperation, bilateral cooperation. Trinidad's previous Prime Minister, previous administration under the direction of former Prime Minister Kamel Persad-Bissessar had close ties with former President Hugo Chavez. Back in 2010, there was an environmental-oriented tourism agreement. Back in 2007, there was an energy deal. Earlier this year, 2017, Trinidad and Tobago and Venezuela had formed, at the height of Venezuela's food crisis, Trinidad assisted Venezuela in terms of shipping food and essential supplies to Venezuela, toilet paper, soaps, things like of this nature. And of course, a deal in terms of gas and oil was given in exchange to Trinidad and Tobago. So we don't have all the details in terms of exactly what came out of yesterday's meeting with Jorge Ariasa and Trinidad's Foreign Minister Dennis Moses, but I'm sure details will come out soon, Soini.
Okay, thank you so much for that update. That is our Regan Devines in our Caracas office. The French NGO Electricians Without Borders, or ESF, is in Dominica to help restore electricity to the island. Coordinator Catherine Bouguet explained that they arrived with a team of 3 people, including 2 engineers and 55 generators, to help re-establish power to the island's schools and health centers that were damaged by Hurricane Maria.
On 55 generators in 2 weeks, we have installed 37 generators. So about 20 in the health center, more or less 10 in schools, primary school. Tomorrow we will install generator in Goodwill Secondary School because they will try to open the sewing classroom on Monday. So we will work tomorrow for the Independence Day. And we install 6 generators in collective shelters. So we have worked in less than 3 weeks a lot.
More news in a minute. Stay with us. Now for another one of our special reports from the Mapuche territory in the south of Chile. Our correspondents Paola Dragnich and Juan Pablo Araneda look at the community's fight to recover their land.
This time we traveled through the Leu riverbank toward the Nahuelbuta Cordillera, a protected nature reserve that today is being used by logging companies despite being a national park and an ancestral territory. The Mapuche resistance is standing up against these companies little by little.
Ever since we fought for our land, we designed this strategy of territorial control by occupying and rebuilding our Mapuche identity and a world in every space we recover.
We are close to a part of the territory where the Mapuche organization Arauco Mayeco already controls almost 30% of the land.
This fight has taken us to prison and it has generated repression. We are being monitored and watched in our own territory.
Ernesto, who has just reached 20 years old, has already been jailed twice.
I was raised as a boy going to jail to see my father Ramon. I went to court hearings and lived through police raids. At the end, this doesn't generate fear, but resentment. There is nothing else for us to do except face the political repression.
Despite being persecuted for 2 decades, Ramon Yanquileo continues his fight to get his land back.
You have to look around you and understand that all of this land is ours. It belongs to us. So what we decided to do is to cut the fences and enter our land, occupying every space little by little. All of what is currently in the hands of the logging companies.
This is a fight that comes with a high price, but it also gives the Mapuche a purpose.
We as a community understand that this is not easy. We are constantly under the threats of the state. If we don't respect private property, we know we will go to jail or be persecuted. We hold on because we know we are right and the truth is on our side. That's what feeds our fight and what pushes us to resist.
And this is all because they hope to rebuild their identity and reclaim their territory.
To those who are numb because of capitalism, we are making that call. We can overcome jail with our militants and our struggle.
It is the road to a dignified life that the Mapuche have inherited from their warriors' ancestors.
In an exclusive interview with Telesur, Brazil's former president Lula da Silva said that the right-wing governments in the region have forgotten workers' rights and the achievements of Brazilian citizens. He said this only added to the deep financial crisis.
I think that something very serious is happening in the world. What is happening in Brazil with workers losing their rights, it's happening in other places as well. After the 2008 crisis, we saw the financial system come back stronger.
The former president also showed his solidarity with the government of Nicolas Maduro and criticized the U.S. and the de facto administration of Michel Temer.
I get nervous and annoyed when I hear the President of the United States talk about Venezuela. Trump should take care of the US and let Venezuela alone. That's why I'm happy with Maduro's victory. It was important for the people in Venezuela to vote and decide. As for the Brazilian government, they have no moral standing to talk about investigating Venezuela's elections. What they should do is propose a commission to investigate the impeachment, not the elections. That is why I stand in solidarity with Venezuela.
Several thousand people demonstrated in Buenos Aires to mark 3 months since the killing of the activist Santiago Maldonado. He disappeared after a police raid on a Mapuche indigenous community in Chubut province. His body was found 2 weeks ago. More details in this report.
Just like every first date of the month, the picture of Santiago Maldonado is held high as hundreds of voices call for justice on the streets of Argentina.
At least the body was found, but there's a lot of concern. We have to wait for the results of the autopsy, and we have to keep working for truth and justice to compensate for the damage done. There is direct responsibility on the part of the National Gendarmerie and the Security Minister.
3 months after his death, Human rights organizations are accompanying the family of the young activist in their demand for justice, and they're calling the authorities to keep investigating how was he detained and the reasons for his death.
We're collecting signatures in the Plaza de Mayo and other places to denounce Patricia Bullrich and her responsibility in the death of Santiago Maldonado. The political powers are clear that they won't do anything, and they are responsible for this disappearance. We hold the security minister responsible, and through her, the president.
The road to seek justice has been a long one since August 1st, when Santiago Maldonado was last seen alive as federal forces repressed members of the Mapuche community in the Cuchamen area of the Chubut province.
They won't accept the disappearance. They won't suspend the officers who repress these people. They tell things from the perspective of the repressive state, which is violating human rights every day, which has a political prisoner like Milagro Sala. You know, it's very sad that we have to be shooting for people disappeared, people to be returned alive just like 40 years ago.
We're coming along with the family to denounce the responsibility of the government, because there was illegal repression by the gendarmerie without a warrant. They invaded land without authorization and persecuted a Mapuche community and Santiago Maldonado.
In their search for the truth, the human rights organizations are not giving up. They repeat over and over their demand for justice and for all the facts to come out about how Santiago Maldonado died.
A vigil for the 5 Argentinian victims of the New York terror attack has been held in their hometown of Rosario. Hundreds attended the candlelight vigil held at the technical school where the 5 friends graduated from in 1987. The group were visiting Manhattan to celebrate their 30-year reunion and were on a bicycle trip Tuesday when the terror attack killed at least 8 people.
It really impacted me a lot at first, but it impacted me more today because I saw on the internet that one of the people that was saved in the attack is a friend of mine, and I didn't know he was traveling. His name is Ivan Barancoy, and one of the reasons I'm here is to honor him and his friends.
More than 200 women, dressed as Catrinas, a traditional icon of the Day of the Dead, marched in Mexico City to protest against femicides and violence against women. Family members of femicide victims and feminist organizations demanded that the Mexican state protect women around the country. They also asked every victim to be identified along with the investigation of every case registered. Not one more, and it was not a suicide, it was a femicide, were some of the chants heard during the march that took to the streets of Mexico City during the Day of the Dead.
We have nothing to celebrate. We still have victims not only in the city, but all around the country. It is very important for us to bring awareness and talk about gender violence. This way, we can fight the problem. We can try to change what's happening. Today, we want to talk about our victims of gender violence.
In Bolivia, on the 1st of November, the souls of the dead were received with joy along with a lot of food and drink. This is an annual tradition that sees Bolivians honor their loved ones for 24 hours. Details in this report.
Music, dance, fruit, food, drink, and plenty of figures made of bread. This is the party to receive the souls of the dead, where once a year, at noon on the 1st of November, Bolivians come to spend time with their loved ones.
It is a welcome that is given to the dead before they go back to Ayamarla, which is the world of the dead. For them to return happy, and for them to be happy because we are happy, the time between today and tomorrow is called Amay Pacha.
This is not only for family members, but also for those who are gone and who nobody remembers. This is a special day in which your loved ones come back. You can imagine the context of having to wait for those who are gone.
Every year, the Foreign Ministry organizes these tables which will receive the deceased, and the diplomatic officials take part in this Aymara ceremony for the dead.
The value of our ancient culture is that they have always honored the ancestors, recognizing that we are their legacy, we are their descendants, so we can go back to the beginning of time, to the beginning of life.
In the Aymara world, death doesn't exist. It's only a journey of the spirit to another dimension that once a year opens its doors for a long trip. That's why they give them food and drink to relieve their exhaustion.
We make a plate of food because our dead come to eat. They drink their corn chicha, their beer if our dead liked it, sweets, cookies, alfajores, or empanadas that our dead liked.
In private homes, town squares and cemeteries, tables are arranged with the tanta wawa, or bread baked in the shape of a child, which represents the dead. There's also the tradition of the disappeared tables, organized by the families of victims of the dictatorship.
We also try to pay tribute to our founding mothers. There's several of the mothers that founded the association 40 years ago and who died without knowing the truth and what happened to their children.
At noon on the 2nd of November, the souls return to the Valley of the Dead. They're sent off with the music that they enjoyed while they were alive, and an abundance of food, bread and fruit left over from the visit, which is given away to the people who come to pray for their returning dead.
As we just saw, various cultures have ways of honoring those who have died. In Haiti, it's called Fête Guédé, and it's celebrated at the start of November.
Fête Guédé is the Haitian celebration of their ancestors. On Wednesday, Haitians convened in cemeteries to honor their deceased loved ones. These people, gathered in the National Cemetery of Port-au-Prince, are using food and drink to perhaps persuade them to return for a visit.
We're here today to celebrate the spirits in the cemetery.
The celebrations are similar to the Catholic All Souls and the Latin American Day of the Dead celebrations. But Fête Guédé is decidedly African in origin and execution. The visits typically take place on November 1st and 2nd.
We ask for luck, liberty, and long life from the death. We ask for all the good things from the spirits. And right now, each child from a home offers a fruit to the spirits to thank them. That is why you see fruit here. The more fruits we offer, the more hope, victory, and love we have.
The festival gets its name from Papa Guédé, the first man to have died. He is now the spirit that guides souls into the afterlife. So honor must be made to him, Baron Samedi, and then to the ancestors. Voodoo came to Haiti when the first enslaved Africans arrived on the island. It has remained and thrived, and is an essential part of life in Haiti.
We'll be back very soon. Stay with us. U.S. President Donald Trump's former campaign manager, Paul Manafort and aide Rick Gates, were charged with money laundering Monday by federal investigators probing Russian interference in the 2016 U.S. election. The judge ordered the house arrest for both Manafort and Gates, setting a $10 million unsecured bond for Manafort and $5 million for Gates. Manafort's lawyer argued in court that he's not a flight risk, despite calls from the prosecution for stiff bail terms ahead of the next hearing on Thursday. Both men have pleaded not guilty to all charges against them. And now let's take a look at the news making headlines around the world.
127 people have died in Madagascar since August due to an epidemic. Over 1,000 cases were classified as the deadly pulmonary plague, while 261 were bubonic plague. This is a worrying situation as the outbreak started earlier this season in urban areas rather than rural parts of the island. Doctors Without Borders have set up a treatment center in the city of Tamatave, where they claim patients are no longer contagious after 4 days.
I just need to be saved. If I must be an outcast from society upon returning home once I finish my treatment, I wouldn't be afraid.
Theresa May and Benjamin Netanyahu met in London this Thursday for the anniversary of the Balfour Declaration. 100 years ago, Britain signed a statement fully supporting the creation of Israel at the expense of the Arab peoples who already lived there. Netanyahu praised the cooperation of both countries, while May said the United Kingdom was proud to play such a key role in establishing Israel. Arab lawmakers in the Parliament of Israel announced they would boycott celebrations and organize protests in solidarity with Palestine. Iraqi forces battled up to the edge of Al-Qaim on Thursday, which is the biggest town still held by the Islamic State group in the country, as they push ahead with a final assault on the extremists. Al-Qaim, in the surrounding pocket of desert territory along the Euphrates River, is now the last remnant of the self-styled caliphate the Islamic State declared in 2014. The roughly 150,000 people
events told by their main figures, research findings that transcend our people's views.
Monsanto se ve entre un buen sector de los agricultores como una gran amenaza.
Hay un montón de gente que se va a España a trabajar, a otro sitio a trabajar. Nos tiene que